Hello and welcome to day 2 of our KIDE CareStart training program. On day 2, we want to look at childcare and child development. Today we are looking at the basics, so this means we are not going in depth, but if you are a nanny, then once we touch on a topic, the onus lies on you to be curious and to also seek out more knowledge. This program is the KIDE CareStart, which means that it's not the Pro. There's a medium program, which is a KIDE Care Pro, where we go more in depth as a nanny. But this is basic training that everyone who is interested in domestic work, who is interested in being in a family setting for work, should know. Because even if you're a housekeeper, understanding what the kids in the house need will be crucial to you doing your work well and going even the extra mile. So join us as we learn some basics. This course is for aspiring nannies, housekeepers, and domestic caregivers, and also a good refresher for those who are already started. So let's go right in. So today we are going to look at the role of a professional nanny, some child basics, safety basics, feeding and nutrition, some development basics. What does it mean to be an infant? What does it mean to be a toddler? All those will be at least highlighted so that we can understand the children that we are encountering and be able to help them develop. So we'll also talk about bathing and hygiene. There's a big debate that goes around nannies versus babysitters. And I've also been asked this question a couple of times by parents. What's the difference between a nanny and a babysitter? So I believe that a nanny is not just watching a child. It's not just keeping an eye on a child when the parents are away briefly. The nanny is indeed helping to shape the child. That's the difference. When someone brings you in as a nanny, they are hoping that you have the right skills, you have the right attitude, you have the love and the attention to give to the children in order to help them develop. So whilst you are looking out for their safety, you're also looking out for their development. And that's what makes the difference. That's what makes you a nanny instead of a babysitter. So a nanny is trusted by the family. A nanny is trusted by the child as well. And one of the most important aspects of family life is the children that have come as a result of the union. So if someone entrusts you with their child, then they have entrusted you with one of their most important treasures. So a nanny has to watch out for the safety of the child at all times. And you help support the routines of the parents. You help to teach good behavior. You encourage development. That is what you are coming in to do. So what do you think would make a nanny special to a child? It's a question for you. What do you think would make a nanny special to a child? A child is developing, is now seeing different adults by them. What can a nanny do to make them special? I would say from the child's perspective, They do not yet understand or comprehend fully what they need. But it is our duty as adults to keep them safe. So safety is key. Sadly, there are many incidents of children harming or hurting themselves due to adult negligence. And if the child was in the position to take good care of themselves, the family wouldn't have the need for that role. So bear in mind that you are there primarily as an adult who knows better than the child and to keep them safe. I'll add here that sometimes some nannies, when they are not confident, end up being bossed around by the children they are supposed to supervise. That's why it's good to have training and understand the reason why you are there. You are there to keep the child safe. That means you are there to be the adult in any situation, and your sense of judgment on anything should be sharp. Also, the child is growing, and this growth has to be done healthily. This statement is very packed. Healthy growth. The healthy describes the growth. So there's growth, all right, or we are hoping that there will be growth. At that stage, it's either they grow or they die, right? So they need to grow, and that's why you are there. And that includes feeding, development of their minds, whatever it takes to become who they really are. And they, at that stage, are relying on the adults to shape their lives. So it's important that the nanny understands that you are there to help the child grow. It means if as a nanny, years down the line, you meet the children that you have taken care of and you see that they are responsible adults, you take pride in that because you are a part of that history. You are a part of that growth. So keep that in mind. Also, at that young age, very little things can cause illness or disease. So hygiene is important. They are practically on the floor where we adults know not to be. So it's your duty. That's where there's the nexus between being a nanny and being a housekeeper. You are keeping the child, and whatever the child needs in that scenario, to be able to be well kept, to be able to grow, to be able to be healthy, to be able to be hygienic, it's your duty to do it. So it is sad when we come across nannies who say, I'm not a housekeeper. You are a home keeper, you are a baby keeper, and the surrounding of the child is important that you keep that place neat as well. So in houses where they have multiple domestic workers and there's a housekeeper and there's a nanny, the child's room, even if there's a housekeeper, the child's room or their play area or wherever they are is still the responsibility of the nanny. So please, let's bear this in mind. This is very important. And then routine. Remember, this is a young human who is now developing, and one of the best things they'll need is their routines to be able to develop well. So help manage those routines of the child. That's why you're there. Mostly these routines are set by the parents, and then you will become the enforcer. It's important that, tied into what we discussed yesterday about respecting the values of the family, it's important that once you have been told what the routine is and it is safe and in your own professional experience, this is something that will be good for the child. It's important you respect the values of that family. Often, we tend to say, that's not how I was doing it with client A, B, and C. So I'm not used to that. Remember, your biggest trait as a nanny is to be teachable, because every household is different and every child is different. Even if you have you are in a nanny of multiple children, you'd realize you have to give some specialized assistance to each child. So please be open-minded when you go to a new home and accept the routines that have been set. This word, manage usually means that you are not doing it, but you have to ensure it is done. That's what managing, simply put, means. It means it's not that we are setting routines for you, the nanny, but the child's routine, you have to bring them in line so that they follow the routine. So before we go on, being a nanny of children, which is a very broad term, is broad. So we need to break it down, and we need to understand what children do at the various stages of their development. So children behave differently depending on their age, also depending on their environment. Would expect that babies would cry. That's how they communicate at that age. If they're uncomfortable, they would cry. If they are hungry, they would cry. And toddlers are exploring. They are seeing everything for the first time. It's like, what's that? Straight into the mouth. So you need to keep an eye on the child at all the different stages and keep in mind that there's nothing wrong with the child. They are exploring, and they ought to. Preschoolers, now they are speaking, they want to ask questions. Auntie, don't say, of course, they want to ask questions. They are curious. All this is part of the childhood development. They need to develop, and you are the professional there to help them develop. You are their teacher, you are their sister, you are their cousin, you are their friend, you are their everything at that point. So please bear in mind. Then when they are of school-going age, 6 and above, they want their independence. So if you stayed long enough with the same family, you realize that child that was so clingy, following you around to ask questions, now wants his own playtime, wants to do things by himself, wants to be in his room. You have to understand all these different age groups. And again, this is very generic and based on very generic data. It could be different for the child that you're handling. So keep in mind to be observant and adapt accordingly. This graph, it shows the different sensory developments. When 0 to 1 years, they are trying to understand words, they are making gestures, they are trying to process the languages that are spoken around them at that time from 1 to 2. They are making some social connections, and then they are beginning to understand their own emotions. So it's not all cry. Now they can break it, they can be angry, right? And then from 2 to 3 years, they can understand what went on. Toddler stage, if you are being naughty, if you are not helping them out as you should, they can report to you to mommy. They have an expanded vocabulary, they are growing, they are picking up on words. You have to be careful the words you're saying around them at this stage. And then 3 to 4 years, they're asking questions, and they can also answer questions. So you should be more communicative with them. They can be counting, problem solving. 4 to 5 years, they can follow directions, turn left, turn right. And it's important that you don't assume they're a baby throughout, like you're taking care of maybe a baby and a 4-year-old, and you are treated them all as babies. No, you need to be vocal with who is vocal, and then use other forms of communication that the other kids can understand. You have to be adaptive, right? And again, most of these charts are generic. Some kids are outside the spectrum of what is generic. You need to have the patience to understand and then follow through. There are some developmental milestones. So if the child that you are taking care of hasn't hit these milestones, and it's important to bring it up with their parents, draw their attention to it. They themselves may have observed, but depending on the dynamic in the home, you as a professional should also bring it up when you notice these things. Okay. Then to me, I believe the most important part of being there, safety. Because why I say this is when it comes to the routine, when it comes to the food, usually moms are very jealous and protective. They would have it all spelled out, right? They are not relying on you to provide the food. They may be relying on you to prepare it, but they could give you instructions even down to the littlest detail. Add 2 scoops of this and 3 scoops of that, you know. So essentially, as the adult who has been brought in, when they step out, and when we started the session, that was our logo, we step in when you step out. When there's no adult around, the primary thing that you have been given charge of is to keep the child safe. Every other thing falls off of it. Every other thing comes as a result of it. Keeping them safe, keeping them well fed, all those things are as a result of the authority that has been given into your hands. And the difference there is you are an adult, they are a child. So their safety is in your hands. We shouldn't hear stories like, oh, I told him to stop, but he didn't stop, and see what happened. Awula. That is why you are there. The child's safety is your priority. That's why you are there. So you have to prevent certain things from happening. And it's not enough to say or talk. You need to learn how to prevent certain things from happening. And when they do happen, that is why CPR and first aid training is essential for all nannies or anyone who takes care of a child. But by the time you are doing that, we are mitigating risks, or we are trying to come out of a bad place. These skills we are talking about will help you to prevent the issue, the occurrence, not just try to save them from it, right? So never leave a child alone. Again, it's also why I have never really liked this offering that even CareStart does, which is nanny housekeeper. Because by the pure definition of the word and nanny, you have to keep an eye on the child at all times. So if you are busy cooking or busy cleaning up, who is taking care of the child? So I've never been a big fan of the nanny housekeeper role, but keep an eye on the child at all times. Never leave them alone. And don't leave them near water. And I'm not talking about a big pool. It could just be a bucket of water. Don't leave them near fire. I think I should use red for this. Don't ever take them close to a road without your guidance, without holding their hands. See what's happening here? He's trying to go out. They are curious. They are full of energy. So please be careful, be mindful. Balcony. How far up does he have to reach to be able to climb? The kitchen. The kitchen has been mentioned here because it's one of the dangerous parts of a home. It's also one of the most fun parts of the home. And it tends to be where caregivers are usually gravitating towards because of the many meals in a day. You are more likely than not to be in the kitchen at some point or another. But kids shouldn't be left alone in these places. Also, keep them away from medicine, from sharp objects, from chemicals, and anything they could pick, put in their mouths. Keep an eye on them at all times. I brought in a picture here of children in the kitchen with their parents' assistant to show you that the key word here is alone. Because I know some of you say, hey, are you saying a child shouldn't go near a kitchen? How would they learn to do things for themselves? We are saying don't leave the child alone in the kitchen. Everything they are doing should be supervised. We probably have these pictures because, of course, there was an adult there. So it's not that dangerous, but it's just illustrating to you what could go wrong when you are not keeping an eye out for them. And there's a famous saying about kids that when they are making noise or you can hear them, usually they are safe. When things go quiet and they are not in your line of sight, please look for them. Okay. So safe handling for babies, you have to hold them gently. You have to hold their head up. Their necks are not fully developed, so don't be haphazard with that. Lay a baby down safely, not on their tummy, on their backs. Sleeping position. It's important that we check the sleeping position. Sometimes by this road, the way you prevent it is to make sure gates are closed, child-proofing the home, and once all that is done, still make it a point to understand that you shouldn't leave them alone. You should never leave them alone. Okay. Then we'll look at food and nutrition. Kids are growing, and an important part of growth is the food that we eat in order to grow. So kids are the ones who need regular food. And of course, adults need regular food as well. But kids need timely, regular food. So you should make sure your hands are clean. This goes to the hygiene topic that we discussed on day one, that the utensils you are using are clean, are properly washed with the right detergent, that your portions are good, in line with what they can eat at that time. Please consult the mom when it comes to this. And then the timing of the food itself. So there should be correct feeding time. Also, pay attention to what the parents are saying. They are probably been with this child longer. They understand some of their nuanced eating habits and stuff like that. So it will be good to get that info and respect their decisions on certain aspects. Some children don't like food, some children like food too much. All these have to be managed with clear instructions from the parents. When you make observations, your best bet is to discuss with them and maybe try a few things out and discuss. Know what they've tried, what they haven't tried yet, what you could also suggest. Let it be in a collaborative manner, never combative. Don't assume, yes, you are the expert, you are the professional, but always make your suggestions in a way that the parent will feel comfortable to discuss issues concerning the child's feeding and nutrition with you. Don't impose. If the parent highlights some nutritional needs, please follow it. Children need protein, they need milk, all these balanced dietary expectations should be followed. Sometimes there's a tendency that those that are experienced amongst us would be working based on experience of their own children. Your children are not the same children you are nannying now. So listen to the mom, make suggestions, be respectful about it, give them time to consider it, introduce new things slowly, and ultimately let it be a collaborative discussion. Okay, so hygiene, we've noted that we should have proper hygiene, and we should also watch out for choking risks. What are some of the choking risks that you know of? So, hard candies, large food pieces, granules. These are just some examples, but these things can get stuck in their neck and then cause some choking. So feed appropriately based on their age. Always check with the mom when it comes to feeding, and don't be afraid to experiment, but also take feedback from the child. Force feeding and some of those other things are not encouraged here. Okay, so here's a double slide put in one. I want us to focus on this left hand side first. Importance of play. They are feeding, but they need to play. The importance of play. So play helps to build up the brain. At this stage, the brain is doing all the work at every stage anyway. It also helps to build up their confidence. It also helps them to learn. It's through play that we sing songs, we do whatever, and they'll be learning along the way. Then, by playing by themselves or with others or their siblings, they also pick on social cues. So play is important. Don't be the nanny that keeps the children away from their neighbors or their classmates. Introduce them to activities that will help them to play with their peers. These social skills, we've all come to realize as adults that are even more important than some of the academic skills. So please keep this in mind. Remember, this is a child you are helping to groom. Do whatever it takes in your part to make sure that when you meet them again in future and they are so well developed, you can pat yourself on the back and say, yes, I helped raise them. Okay, so some of the examples of things we can do during play. Let me go with a play for color play. See, yeah. So we can sing songs, We can build things with blocks. Storytelling is also quite important. It's important to open up their minds to imagine things. All the Toli we know was told us when we were kids. At that point, whether we believe them to be true or not depends on which child you are. But it's important to use storytelling, to use their imagination, and to also pick up on this, what their interest is. Most of the proteges started when they were little. So if the child has a flair for dancing, has a very good rhythm, it's good that you pick up on this, play more music, you get the drift. If they're good, you have to introduce things to them so that gradually they show you what they like, what they don't like, what they are good at, those that are good at math, abacus, so many amazing things that kids are doing now. The onus is on you as their nanny to help them unearth their talents. Don't keep them tagged away watching Coco Melon day in and day out. So play games with them. Then I put the hygiene by the play because, well, sometimes people are not so keen on play because they think it makes kids less hygienic. But hopefully, we've explained why play is important. So after the play or before the play, just understand that whilst you are taking care of the child's hygiene or bathing them, don't leave them alone. I think this should be, if there's one thing that you would take away from this training, never leave the child alone. Have them in eyesight, ear sight. Please, never leave a child alone. That's why you are there. The parents can't be there, and they know you should never leave a child alone. That's why a nanny is there. Capiche? Good. Okay, so there should be daily bathing, should have clean clothes, and usually again, I'm highlighting the intersection. This the clothes have to be clean, but who will clean them? So everything that will ensure this child is healthy and strong and safe, once it falls under your purview as the caregiver for the child, aka the nanny or the nanny, it means that you are responsible for that. So again, in a situation where there's a housekeeper and there's a nanny, the nanny is responsible for the baby's clean clothes. Okay. Also, they pick up on things fast, make sure they've always washed their hands, and keep an eye. You are not leaving them alone, so you would always notice if the diaper is full and needs to be changed. So there should always be clean diapers. Alrighty. Now, as adults, we famously say, "Oh, don't be childish. Don't be childish." Why do we say this? It's because children are less emotionally regulated. So they are still developing, they're picking up all these cues from us, but we don't have to treat them like adults. You have to understand that they are still developing. They're still trying to make do with all the information that is coming at them. Sometimes what may seem as non-threatening to you may be threatening to them. So it's important to have the childlike spirit. It's important to have an understanding heart to meet the emotional needs of children. What will make you a great nanny is to be able to go beyond the task of do this, do that we've discussed before, and really tap into the likeness of the child. And this will only come about if you understand what emotional needs the children have. we tend to say children misbehave, but I think it's always some explanation that goes with this behavior. They may be tired, they may be hungry, or the third one, when they feel ignored. Kids can be clingy and they have a deep-seated need for love, attention, and compassion. So do not leave a child alone and then say, you like crying, you like crying. That's why you are there. Offering comfort, offering love, attention, and encouragement to a child is more important than you think. Even we adults, don't we love and attention and comfort? Yes, they are less developed beings, but they are beings anyway. So these fundamental needs of humans to be well fed, to feel safe, and to feel connected with the people around us is important. So I hope that by starting with our training and saying be professional, you don't go there with your head held high, acting like a robot with rules and regulations only. The child's emotional development is very important. So keep that in mind. Once you connect with the child, protect. Once you have a very good connection with the child, even if you're not good with some of the chores, the mother likes you as a nanny because that is the one thing that is not easy to find. Okay? So this emotional needs of children should be of concern to you. Show empathy. And here I have to say, as Africans, because there's majority Ghanaians that are probably watching this. So let me chip this in. Some of our methods of dealing with kids that we have seen or were exposed to, we really need to unlearn some things. Here at CareStart, we discipline without violence. And to show you how important that is to us, this is our first item on the zero tolerance policy. So we do not condone child abuse or neglect. It will have consequences up to losing your job. So please, child abuse is a no-no. It's not up to you to do that. The family has to give you permission, and even then, per your training, per our rules, we do not do that. So don't use force or violence to have a way with the children that you take care of. Please, this is important. Treat as such. What should we use then, Miss Care? Good question. Use your voice. You see the same facial expressions that we talk about, the same body language that we talk about when dealing with adults and others. You have the opportunity to use them when dealing with children. So if the adults in your office, regardless of how they offend, you cannot just spank someone, then you cannot do it with a child as well. It's generally frowned upon human behavior. So please, use your voice, use your mannerisms when you have connected with a child emotionally, and when you are well rested, you wouldn't bring your frustrations onto the child, which is usually what happens when abuse happens. So have the rules and make sure they are clear. And then when the rules are broken, which they will be, use gentle correction. Again, violence is a no at KIDE. Because if you beat a child, you cause fear. It doesn't bring discipline. Okay? And since we have introduced the zero tolerance policy, also take the time to familiarize yourself with it as well. Then routine. That's my favorite. A routine is better than daily instruction. Routine plus daily instruction is even better. So as quickly as you can, put the children or the child under your care in a routine. Wake up time, bath time, feeding time, play time, nap time, study time, sleep time, sing time, dance time. The fact that there's a slot or a time for that is important. It doesn't mean that you do the same thing over and over again. The variety comes in the different activities that you do. For example, if after bath time they know they can help choose or pick their clothes, that can create some excitement with bathing. Whether it's a shower or a proper bath, you can have an exciting bath time, but the time should be fixed. That's what we call by routine. So routine doesn't mean you should be feeding them the same thing over and over again. Get creative again with the parents' involvement and be observant as well. They are growing, they are showing you what they like, what they don't like, but create this routine, stick to it judiciously, and if they resist, which they will, speak calmly, never shout, never hit. Capiche? Good. Okay, so we'll give some additional tips based on general childcare, what experts say we should do, and also especially as a nanny, what you should bear in mind. They are copying what you're doing, so keep in mind that you do not express certain untoward behavior around a child. Model the good manners that you want them to have. Screen time. It's a big thing in today's world, but limit it a bit. Yeah, that's the word. Limit it a bit. Again, routine. So you can have 15 minutes of screen time or 30 minutes of screen time and then limit the rest. Okay? Kids are not any different from us. Ahua ahua. Or is that not what they call it? Praise improves behavior. Even you, as an adult, you know this to be true. In fact, let's take it from higher up. The Lord inhabits the praises of his people. We are created in his image and likeness. Everybody loves to be praised. Some people use that to their own advantage and it's manipulative. That's not what I'm saying. But it's important in the child's development that you use praise when you see that they are calmly doing their homework, they are doing as instructed, that you mention it again to encourage the good actions to be continued. Also, some kids are not yet vocal, so you have to be on the watch out for illnesses and some signs. If they are hot, feeling feverish, there's some unusual weakness, you see that they are a bit slower than usual. If it's more pronounced, like vomiting, rash, and then you report it to the parents and seek first aid ASAP. This is one social thing that I guess parents are even told, couples, that don't argue in front of the child. And this applies to you as a nanny. In fact, you shouldn't argue, first of all, not to talk of in front of the child. But let's just say there's a need for a banter. We don't encourage that. But let's just say there's the need for that. At least make sure it's not in front of a child. The mother, the father, the parents, the primary guardian has full authority. We are not there to usurp that authority. It's very important that you make not just the parents but the child know this dynamic as well. So we've come to the end of day 2. Day 2 is exciting because, of course, everybody's favorite, children. It's lovely to talk about children. I could talk about children all day. But we have to wrap up now. Hopefully you have learned that it's not just keeping an eye on a child, like the traditional sense of babysitting. Oh, I'm not around, come and keep an eye on the child. As a nanny, you are going the extra mile. First, safety, then their growth, development, health, their well-being, emotionally connected with the child at all times. And you have to create this for the child. Bear that in mind. You have to create the safety, the health, the emotional well-being, looking out for their development. You have to be a caring nanny. A professional nanny is a caring nanny who helps children. Thank you for joining today's session. Again, we'll meet in the evening on the live session to discuss what has been done, and then we'll do a recap tomorrow as well. But before we go, bear in mind tomorrow, that's day 3 of KIDE CareStart, we'll be looking at household management. See you soon.